Hello and welcome to the south of France. The beach is just 900 yards in that direction. It's the middle of the summer. Today is going to be about 37 degrees, and behind me you can see 8 hectares of 1000% organic wheat. Now, I've had this field planted in cooperation with my neighbour, and it's been planted in such a way that there are no tram lines in this field. Tram lines are long indentations created by tractor tyres, and the reason that this field has been planted in such a way is that, yes, although we're going to make some croissants and some biscuits and some other products from this wheat, the main central reason why we've planted this wheat is to do research into UFOs and crop circles. Now, the sound that you can hear behind me are cicadas, and that's because we're in the Mediterranean. And you may think, well, what on earth are you doing crop circle research in the Mediterranean for? Surely the epicenter of crop circle research is Great Britain, which has had literally thousands and thousands of crop circle designs over the last 22, 23, 24 years. Well, it's true to say that the world's most famous crop circle designs have appeared in England, but the ancient history of crop circles is what I'm really interested in. And the ancient history of crop circles started here in the Mediterranean, not far from the south of France and the border with Spain. And it's here where we start our story, at a place called Oppidum. This is Oppidum in the Mediterranean. 2,200 years ago, this natural basin in the south of France was inhabited by people from Greece and controlled by the Roman Empire. In the 1970s, peasants in the nearby village of Montordi that overlook these ancient fields reported orbs of light, UFOs, flying above these fields. This 1970s UFO flap went on for a whole year. The world's most famous ufologist is actually Jacques Vallée, who presented UFO evidence from France and all over the world at the United Nations in 1978. Shards of pottery from 2,000 years ago, unearthed at Oppidum, show the shape of crops peppered with circular indentations. This phenomenon is known as grape shot and is a common feature of many crop circles. These 2,200-year-old vases show UFOs in the sky dropping small balls of light. Horseshoe-shaped UFOs are actually a common sighting in Mexico and the Mediterranean. At Oppidum, something very, very important happened in the distant past. Something so important that the people there commemorated the existence of crop circles and UFOs on hundreds of clay pots, dishes and vases. This, surely, is proof that the crop circle phenomenon is at least 2,200 years old in this part of Europe. In fact, Not only at Oppidum do we see these circular markings carved into rock. We see these circular markings at Newgrange in Ireland and in many other megalithic sites. The megalithic period These circular markings could represent the egg or ovum, or could possibly represent spiral galaxies. The resemblance of the pottery at Oppidum to modern-day crop circles is remarkable. There are literally hundreds of examples of crop circle designs to be found here. On this bowl we see a spiral in a circle, maybe showing an aerial view of a tumulus with 4 circles around it. Notice the etching on the bowl. This could perhaps represent the flattened crop. Are these bowls and dishes commemorating in some way a celestial event such as a supernova? Or are they actually showing us that crop circles that we film in the fields of Britain and other countries worldwide today used to appear 2,200 years ago in the Mediterranean? Certainly the similarity between these 2,000-year-old shards of pottery and modern-day crop circles is remarkable. Time and time again at Oppidum we see remarkable similarities between designs that were etched onto pottery and bowls and vases 2,000 years ago and the crop circles which are appearing in our fields today. In 1991, key shapes began to appear on enormous crop circles which appeared near Alton Barnes in Wiltshire. One of these pictograms was featured on the Led Zeppelin album Remasters. The key motif which we see on some crop circles may symbolize that these pictograms are showing us planetary alignments. They could be solar systems, or showing us different phases of a planet or a star's evolution. Interestingly, keys is the term given to incantation calls used by magicians to summon spirits, angels, and demons. The Kabbalah Tree of Life, which is a roadmap to the spirit world, has also appeared time and time again in crop circles which appear very close to ancient megalithic sites. Of course, we should actually say that there are crop circle hoaxers. These people are paid by TV companies and newspapers to fake crop circles. Here we see National Geographic Television paying Team Satan to hoax a crop circle. Now interestingly, Team Satan have reported that whilst making fake crop circles, they have seen orbs of light and UFOs fly across the fields. It seems that small orbs of light often fly down from the upper atmosphere and check out man-made circles, as if certain pictograms or certain symbols, certain sacred, ancient, magical talismans attract these balls of light. For thousands of years, since the dawn of time, magicians have used sigils and symbols to invoke spirits. In voodoo, these are drawn on the ground. Each of the demonic entities described in the famous Book of Howling actually has a sigil or symbol which is unique to that particular spirit. Three people who I have interviewed for the making of this film, who claim to make crop circles, have reported that orbs of light often fly down and observe the man-made symbol on the ground. And sometimes an extra motif is added to a crop circle, as if there is a symbolic communication between the person making the crop circle and these mysterious balls of light. At Oppidum, the people living there 2,200 years ago carefully carved and etched crop circle type patterns on bowls and plates and vases. With closer inspection, another aspect to this mystery unfolds. The crop circle symbols are combined with the shape of hallucinogenic mushrooms and plants. In the ancient world, especially in the Mediterranean, there were mystery schools performing high ceremonial magical rituals designed to attract nature spirits or angels, or sometimes to attract the spirits of actual planets. Hallucinogenic potions were drunk from specially made bowls and cups. At Oppidum, amongst the dozens and dozens of artifacts which contain crop circle iconography and images of UFOs, we see cups with strange, non-human faces. Is this the face of a spirit, the face of a god, or the face of a cosmic intelligence which was summoned and worshipped at Oppidum more than 2,000 years ago? 11 years ago, I proved by analysing video footage frame by frame which had been filmed in 1996 at Oliver's Castle in Wiltshire that genuine crop circles were being created by small, spherical, unidentified flying objects. These objects are very, very small. They're about the size of a medium-sized kind of beach ball that children would play with. In my footage analysis, I discovered that these small spherical balls of light, which some people in the crop circle research community, by the way, there's very little research in the crop circle research community, I found that these small balls of light were coming from larger organic objects, usually seen high in the atmosphere. And these resemble serpents or snakes, and indeed they've become called sky serpents or motherworms. And I started showing the footage of the sky serpents at various conferences, and I collected footage from a gentleman in Scotland who lives in Stirling, Brian McPhee. I also visited NASA, and I collected footage which had been filmed by astronauts aboard the Space Shuttle, filming the exact same organic serpent-like creatures from the vantage point of the bridge on the Space Shuttle. And it became perfectly obvious to me that there was a relationship between these sky serpents and these small spheres. And what I want to show you in this film for the very first time is spheres in space alongside these so-called sky serpents, spheres going along clouds and flying along at an altitude that I estimate at around 5,000 feet, and then frame by frame analysis of these spheres coming down to ground level. And once they're at ground level, they then swoop across the fields and they create these incredible designs. On the 11th of August 1996, a fresh, unreported formation appeared at Oliver's Castle in Wiltshire, England. Not only that, but a young man appeared in the Barge Inn pub and showed amazing footage from his camcorder of how this new crop circle had been formed. His footage astounded the people at the pub. For the first time, people could see a video recording of what many eyewitnesses had been reporting in previous years. That crop circles are actually formed in a few seconds by small luminous balls of light which fly down from the atmosphere. Many people had seen these balls of light before, but this was the first time the formation of a crop circle had been caught on a video camera. The young man was not alone on Oliver's Castle that night. Two campers told members of the Wiltshire Crop Circle study group that they had heard a strange electronic buzzing known as the crop circle sound in the early hours of that morning, at the exact same time that the young man filmed the crop circle forming in the fields below on the other side of Oliver's Castle. As we watch this amazing footage, it's important to remember that the young man showed his video footage through the viewfinder of his camcorder the exact same day that the formation was discovered. If the footage was hoaxed by this man, then it stands to reason that the crop circle itself also has to be a hoax. The man who turned up at the Barge Inn pub called himself John Whaley. The Oliver's Castle footage is remarkable, as it proves beyond doubt that UFOs, small spherical balls of light, are making crop circle patterns. It not only proves that UFOs are real, but also proves that the crop circle phenomenon is created by UFOs. If indeed it is genuine, then the Oliver's Castle footage vindicates the reports of many NASA astronauts who have also reported seeing small balls of light and UFOs in outer space. You are watching UFO footage filmed from aboard the Space Shuttle. This footage was filmed during mission STS-48 on September the 15th, 1991. The camera is an image intensifying camera especially built for NASA. It is focused at infinity into the far distance, and the arched line, which you can see, is the upper atmosphere of planet Earth. Between 8:30 p.m. and 8:45 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, a glowing object suddenly appeared from the Earth's atmosphere, and it maintained a constant altitude, moving over a period of about 12 minutes towards the northern hemisphere. The shuttle is in orbit 180 miles away, and so therefore this object must be at least 700 yards in diameter for it to be viewable by a video camera aboard the space shuttle. Suddenly, a flash of light happens, which could possibly be an astronaut adjusting the iris of the image intensifying camera. After the flash, the object accelerates into outer space at an estimated speed of 88,000 miles per hour. That's about the same speed as a meteor or a shooting star. The only problem with this is that it can't be a shooting star because shooting stars come into the atmosphere. They don't fly out of the atmosphere. Shortly thereafter, a beam of light streaks through the region vacated by the UFO. Now, according to retired former Pentagon official Philip Corso, the US military has plasma beam weapons and is able to shoot down UFOs which invade our atmosphere. In summary, the STS-48 footage from the Space Shuttle in 1991 proves not only that UFOs exist, but there is some kind of space war going on, which the taxpayers who finance NASA are never told about. Roughly 65 seconds after the main flash, the TV camera rotated down, showing an out-of-focus picture of the side of the cargo bay of the Space Shuttle. It then refocused, turned towards the front of the cargo bay, and stopped broadcasting. NASA have never made an official announcement explaining what these objects are. However, NASA pundits, that's people who claim that they used to work for NASA, say that the objects are ice crystals of frozen waste urine ejected from the Space Shuttle. Now this is obviously a lie, as ice crystals would be much closer to the Space Shuttle, and therefore the camera would not be focused on infinity. After all, why exactly would NASA astronauts waste their time filming crystals of urine when there are UFOs flying around the upper atmosphere? Now, just recently, National Geographic Television broadcast a documentary claiming that the Oliver's Castle footage from 1996 was faked.
This is the Oliver's Castle video, one of the most sensational pieces of evidence, connecting the balls of light with the creation of a crop circle. It began to make the rounds the same day the circle formed. Many believers were convinced that it was the real deal.
This is amazing.
One day at dawn, John Waby, a worker at a video production company, spotted a new circle. Inspiration struck. He grabbed his camera and started taping.
I just really thought it would be quite a good wheeze to see how they reacted if that footage was placed in front of them. And that's what I did.
The rest fell into place in a matter of hours. A video editor copied a section of wheat from another part of the field, pasted it over the formation, and it looked like the field pre-formation. Throw in a few balls of light, dissolve the superimposed wheat from the inside out, and voila, you have your circle.
This is amazing.
Waby then took the tape to a pub frequented by crop circle enthusiasts where it stirred up a frenzy that continues to this day.
At first viewing, without having investigated the events of the 11th of August 1996, the National Geographic television show seems like a credible debunking of the Oliver's Castle video. However, when I investigated the situation, not everything was as clear-cut and obvious as the National Geographic TV producers suggest. Firstly, people who were at the Barge Inn public house on the 11th of August 1996 say that the man in the National Geographic documentary is not the same person they saw. Secondly, there was no soundtrack on the original video footage. And more importantly, the man who came to the Bargain pub that day called himself John Whaley, not John Waby. The person responsible for filming the Oliver's Castle footage has disappeared and has been replaced by a stooge. And this is not the first time that somebody who has filmed amazing video footage of crop circles and UFOs has disappeared. Two brothers from Germany at Manton in Wiltshire, several years before, filmed amazing footage, and they too have disappeared, never to return back to England.
There's the thing! I lied! Yes! Here again!
Let us not forget that National Geographic Television have made at least 2 documentaries where the TV production team have collaborated with crop circle hoaxers. 2 Dutch authors who I interviewed for this film, that's Bert Janssen and Janet Ossebaard, allege that there is some kind of conspiracy, a crop circle conspiracy. Bert Janssen and Janet Ossebaard have investigated UFOs and crop circles for more than 12 years. They allege that there is a scam to debunk the existence of crop circles and to debunk the Oliver's Castle footage. The Oliver's Castle footage is the first time that multiple balls of light have been filmed on camera. Interestingly, 3 years later, in 1999, British ufologist Donald Fletcher and American crop circle researcher Patricia Murray both filmed multiple balls of light flying over a crop formation at Barbary Castle in Wiltshire. The similarity of the 1996 Oliver's Castle footage and the film shot by Donald Fletcher and Patricia Murray show the exact same phenomena. The balls of light are the same size and luminosity. The speed at which they fly is also very similar. However, National Geographic Television failed to mention the 1999 Barbary Castle footage filmed by Donald Fletcher and Patricia Murray, even though it shows the exact same phenomena as the 1996 Oliver's Castle video. Why is that? Well, Donald Fletcher is a friend of mine, he's English, and Patricia Murray is another friend of mine, and she's American. Donald filmed this with a British video camera, and Patricia used an American video camera which uses a completely different video system. They visited the Barbary Castle crop circle at different times on the same day. That's 2 people from 2 different countries using 2 different video cameras that use 2 different recording methods. One is British PAL and the other one is American NTSC. Both these videos from the same day at Barbary Castle, filmed in 1999 by Donald Fletcher and Patricia Murray, show the same luminosities, the same balls of light flying across a field. No wonder National Geographic and other mainstream media outlets have failed to debunk that particular video. I believe that the Oliver's Castle video is genuine. Now, why is that? I believe it's genuine because it shows UFOs right at the very top of the video frame, which cannot be seen on a standard television. A standard television cuts about 4 millimeters around the edge of the screen off of the actual picture that you can see on a standard TV. Now, I presented this evidence in a 3-hour documentary in 1999 on the Enigma channel. Now, several people, including Peter Sorensen, who claimed to be serious crop circle investigators and claimed to have actually analysed the Oliver's Castle footage before me, failed to detect the UFOs at the top of the picture. Now, in this area, which a normal television doesn't show, which is about 4 millimeters around the edge of the picture, I discovered a large UFO on the upper edge of the video frame. And this comes down to an ash tree on the hedgerow in the field at the rear of the picture. It is from this large mysterious object that 2 of the spherical balls of light are ejected. They leave the larger object that goes behind the small ash tree and fly over the crop circle in the foreground of the video footage. Now, if these UFOs, these balls of light in the Oliver's Castle video, were completely and utterly animated, as National Geographic Television claim and many other crop circle hoaxers claim, then why would somebody spend hours and hours and hours animating UFOs, balls of light, which could not easily be seen on a normal television? Remember that the video was shown in the Barge Inn pub the same day that the formation had appeared. At the most, if the video and crop circle were hoaxed, then the man in the National Geographic documentary, who claims to be the originator of this footage, would have only had about 9 hours to film the empty field at dawn, then make the crop circle, then climb back up the hill, film the formation, drive from Wiltshire to Bristol, transfer the footage into a video animation system, animate the balls of light, render the new fake footage onto a tape which could be played on a camcorder, which is not so easy in 1996, get back into his car and drive to the Barge Inn pub in Wiltshire. If the producers of the National Geographic Channel think the Oliver's Castle video is fake, then what about Donald Fletcher's footage and Patricia Murray's footage filmed in 1999, as it shows exactly the same phenomenon? The trajectory and luminosity and speed of the balls of light is the same. And what about all the dozens of other video clips of balls of light filmed by crop circle researchers? Are they also fake? Many people have alleged that there is a crop circle conspiracy. The truth of the matter seems to be this: that National Geographic Television and the mainstream media in general have often collaborated with crop circle hoaxers and people who claim to be crop circle hoaxers in order to make TV shows. These hoaxers are claiming that genuine crop circles have been made by members of Team Satan. Now, whether you believe the footage is real or not, one cannot deny that thousands of people who have visited crop circles have all seen military helicopters flying and hovering over the crop circles. If all these crop circles and UFOs were faked, then why on earth would Her Majesty's Armed Forces be so interested in these faked designs. This is another aspect to the crop circle conspiracy. No matter which way you look at it, the luminous balls of light filmed in the upper atmosphere by NASA astronauts aboard the Space Shuttle. The UFOs which we see flying around the skies above cities such as New York and Mexico City, and the small luminous spherical balls of light which we see making the crop circles, all seem to be very, very similar. Can every single one of these pieces of footage be fake? Are we to say that NASA astronauts are faking footage? No. What we're dealing with is an invasion of small spherical UFOs, which I believe are probes from an intelligent race who are investigating us and our planet. An intelligent race who I believe are communicating with us using sacred geometric symbolism.
High above the earth, grouped together with no explanation. These clips show what's being described as swarms of UFOs. Earlier this year in Seoul in South Korea, a crowd gathers to stare up beyond the skyscrapers into the sky. A group of objects hover above the centre of the city for a few seconds, then they disappear. In Mexico 3 years earlier, a very similar sight. Clearer this time, the group of white objects are baffling the people below.
Mira las esferas. Son un chorro. Aquí arriba. ¿Ya las viste? Qué maravilla, ¿verdad?
Zooming in still closer, we find that there are even smaller groupings. Over New York City last year, what looks at first like the vapour trails of aeroplanes. But closer inspection reveals there are dozens of apparent objects, seemingly arranged in some sort of formation. Just before the footage comes to an end, one of the objects appears to come much closer.
Talking about this a few years ago was extremely dangerous. Now that we have YouTube and more social networking devices, such as even Rupert's MySpace, this is really getting out in such a way that they can't control it. They must just be really, if you could use the expression, shitting themselves over this, because they can't control people now talking about the elephant in the room when it's so obvious to all of us.
Now in 2006, my estate here in the south of France was chemtrailed. And chemtrails are a very, very strange phenomenon. You have very large planes, about the size of large passenger jets. Sometimes they look very obviously like military planes that have had tanks added to the undercarriage area of the plane. And we had 4 very large planes fly wingtip to wingtip across the sky here, only across my estate. They released an aerosol type trail, and the contents of these trails have been analysed by various people, and one of the most important constituents of this aerosol vapour, this so-called chemtrail that comes out of these planes, one of the most important ingredients is barium. Now, what we saw, and there was, by the way, 30 people staying at my house here at the time, and the event was filmed on 5 different video cameras by 5 different people. What we saw is military jets, tiny single-piloted military jets, definitely military jets, weaving in and out of the chemtrail. Now, I'd already seen this phenomenon from video footage which I'd been sent by a viewer of the Enigma channel in 1994, and that event took place in Arizona. There is obviously a clear relationship between the military jets, the large jets that are releasing this chemtrail aerosol, which is mostly barium, and spherical UFOs. And it's fascinating to see so many websites and books and magazine articles being published about chemtrails which refuse to mention that these small spherical UFOs, the exact same small beach ball sized spherical UFOs which we see making crop circles, often appear flying and weaving in and out of the chemtrails of these aerosol military craft. Now, why are those military craft following the tanker planes? It is my conclusion that those military craft are studying these small spherical UFOs, and that the spherical UFOs in turn are studying the chemtrail phenomenon. In 2001, a friend of mine went to the Biggin Hill Air Show and filmed a small spherical UFO flying next to the undercarriage of a Russian tanker plane. Now, at that same show, a news report broadcast by the BBC shows a military jet crashing. Now, when I analysed the footage, there was a very, very small spherical UFO flying in a looping trajectory behind this military jet. And I suspect that this small spherical UFO clipped the tail fin of this jet and caused it to crash. Now, as the plume of smoke from this crashed jet was filmed by the BBC, a group of larger self-luminous balls of light can be seen surveying the wreckage. These UFOs are not flares because flares do not move sideways. These are most definitely intelligently controlled spherical UFOs, much the same as those which were reported by pilots during the Second World War. This phenomena has been known about by Her Majesty's Royal Air Force for many, many years. And pilots in the war used to call these UFOs Foo Fighters. Amazingly, this is not the first time a spherical UFO has collided with an aircraft at an airshow. It has happened before in Brazil. Now, why? Why are these small spherical UFOs so interested in the aircraft at airshows? It could be that these are probes which are monitoring mankind's development of advanced technology. Or, perhaps, it might be the case that this jet was maybe used in some kind of secret mission, perhaps tracking UFOs in chemtrails, and had successfully fired a missile at one of these UFOs, and the intelligences controlling these spherical unknown objects decided to pay back. Whatever the case, we can see that these UFOs have a kind of snide, strange agenda. They are possibly causing accidents, they're causing jets to crash, and they are monitoring us. I would like to welcome all of you to what is probably the world's most complicated mystery. And it's a mystery which I intend to fully unravel and explain in this film. And I've decided to call this film The Crop Circle Conspiracy. Space camps is really what the world needs. It's a subject which I take very, very seriously. The question of do UFOs exist is over. I'm just one of many millions of people who've seen, very strange things in the sky. I saw my first UFO when I was 12 years old in London. And airline pilots see them, NASA astronauts see them, Russian cosmonauts see them, and this question of whether extraterrestrials are visiting the planet in spaceships is just a redundant question now. It's a subject which I take very, very seriously because we see them. They appear on radar. NASA track them. They have been photographed by weather satellites. And space camps now will train a whole new army of people around the world to use the new generation of high-definition cameras, which are connected to refractor telescopes and night vision equipment. And we connect the output of the telescopes and the high-definition cameras to plasma screens. And then we use time-lapse. And time-lapse compresses the night sky. And you can watch 8 hours of the night sky in just a few minutes. And it can be automated. And the new telescopes, they have GPS. We can dial in the name of any celestial object, any star, any galaxy, and the GPS controlled telescopes will automatically find those celestial objects for us and then track them as they move across the night sky. And every morning you can watch the previous night sky in a few moments, and it's very easy to then be able to recognize what is an aeroplane, what is a shooting star, what is a helicopter, and what is a UFO. I was 12 years old. I was living in London, and I went up to some fields that had a panoramic view of the city with a friend of mine and a small telescope. And we were both 12 years old, and we were looking at the belt of Orion, the 3 stars in a row. Well, I thought that that's what I was looking at. But after a couple of moments, the right hand and left hand stars moved, and they moved around and did a 180-degree rotation and took up each other's places. And we realized that these were not stars, and it really, really terrified me. It was a life-changing moment, and I remember just turning around to my friend and saying, look, I'm getting out of here because this is really, really scary. And I just ran, and I ran, and I ran, and I ran all the way home. And I became one of those people, one of those people that, is a believer. I've seen something in the sky which is very odd, very strange, and everybody that I told, they didn't really take it that seriously. But ever since then, it's been a constant theme. It's been something which I've been constantly interested in. It's something that has been driven into me. The experience has sort of fueled nearly everything that I've done, and I've always been making films and documentaries and TV shows about extraterrestrial life and the mysteries of the cosmos. And then what I did is I signed up for a night school course at Greenwich University and studied astronomy. I remember the first time that I got a high-definition video camera, and the first thing that I filmed was the moon, and it was a JVC PD1 high-definition 720p high-definition video camera, and I took it outside, and I was amazed that it had 200 times digital zoom, digital magnification. And this was about 6 years ago, and I realized that this is going to change the world. These cameras, which you can go into, your local store, and you can buy these high definition cameras with 200 times digital zoom. You can zoom into the lunar surface. And I remember standing on the terrace recording the moon, and I knew at that stage that if I could train an entire global team of people using high definition cameras, that we would smash this monopoly on science, which is being orchestrated and run by NASA. I've given up waiting for some official announcement. I've really just sort of given up hope on the Ministry of Defence. I've written to them many times. I've submitted Freedom of Information Act requests, and you just get these ridiculous stock answers. And the answers that I get from NASA and the answers I get from Ministry of Defence have never satisfied my curiosity, and they have no relationship to the everyday experiences of NASA astronauts who have filmed UFOs from the Space Shuttle on at least 4 or 5 dozen occasions. one day, after I'd made a film about crop circles and UFOs, about a month after the film was released, about 10 years ago, I started to receive cardboard boxes which had no postcard or letter in them. They were full of VHS cassettes, and somebody had recorded the direct feeds from the space shuttle as it orbited the Earth. Now these pieces of video footage had actually been shown on NASA Select television, but the videotapes which I received anonymously in cardboard boxes were the raw feeds from cameras which the astronauts were using. The video cameras which are aboard the space shuttle have filters on them. They have night vision capability. They have image intensifying capability, which degrades the quality of the actual video image. But that whole period proved to me again that there was something very, very odd happening in the space immediately around planet Earth, and that NASA astronauts were basically spending all of their time recording these unidentified flying objects.
Looks like you got an object right in front of you, Mark. Can you look out there? I'm not sure what you're talking about. Never mind. Are we missing something? It's about your 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock going away. Don't worry about it. Alright, that's good. Let's go out. Oh, that flash. That light flashing off the HST there. What? I just thought it was my imagination. Yeah. I saw it too, so it's not. There was two of them. There's another one. What are they? What are sort of lights flickering in here? They're taking pictures.
And then the day after Roswell was published, and this is an astounding book, and if the things which are said in that book are true, then we are not only in a situation where the Earth is being visited by extraterrestrials, but we are also in a situation where the Star Wars weapons program, which was meant to be a kind of protective shield against nuclear attack, is actually proactively being used to wage a war on extraterrestrial craft. And this is happening outside of any democratic process. It's happening outside any public scrutiny. And the Daily Mail newspaper in London recently released a secret memo from the Ministry of Defence saying that they had plans to shut down the UFO report email system, which allows members of the British public to actually report UFO sightings. You would think that the Ministry of Defence would be very, very interested in objects which are entering our airspace and would be very grateful to the public for reporting that, but the opposite is true. And the reason that this memo says that all reports which the Ministry of Defence receive will be destroyed is so that filmmakers, researchers, investigators like me, when we make our Freedom of Information Act requests in America, and we trying to extend our search so that we can get hold of Ministry of Defense documents, we will get a standard reply saying that all UFO reports from the public are destroyed. That is a lie. That is an absolute corruption of power. And the Ministry of Defense, as far as the UFO phenomenon is concerned, is duping and hoodwinking the public. On the 24th of August in 1990, near the town of Lubin in Germany, a chap called Valery Vinogradov filmed a cluster of UFOs. He says that he saw many people looking up at the sky, and it's no wonder, because you see a circular cluster of unidentified flying objects with a object in the center and another object off to the southern tip. And it's a fascinating piece of footage because we see a sphere go towards the cluster and then disappear, with more objects further south. This is obviously very similar to an official NASA photograph taken during the STS-80 flight of the Space Shuttle, and that took place on the 19th of November 1996. And these images were taken with the Orpheus SPAS remote satellite, which is taken up in the payload bay of the Space Shuttle and released into space, where it drifts free. And the Orpheus satellite has been designed by DARA, which is the Deutschland German space agency. It looks into the ultraviolet light spectrum, and these images show we're looking down on the Earth's atmosphere, and you can see these UFOs taking up a circular formation, and objects are coming from behind the space shuttle or behind the satellite, and then as they reach the upper atmosphere they light up. And this is very similar to what Valery Vinogradov filmed in Germany. And then we have amateur astronomers posting various clips of UFOs on the lunar surface, and this has come from an amateur astronomer who lives on the Franco-Italian border. And this is a mosaic of small QuickTime movies which have been filmed in black and white from the lunar surface, and in the bottom left-hand corner you see this dark object. It's passing the Eudoxus crater. These craters are very, very large. Most craters on the moon are between 10, 20, 30 kilometers across. I estimate this object to be around 25 kilometers in diameter. Now, it's either an actual object or it's a shadow of an object which is passing over the lunar surface. The distortion that you see is due to atmospheric aberrations. And here we see the object, it stops, it's pausing, and where it was going from left to right, we now see the object pause. These jumps are not being made by the object itself, they're gaps in the actual QuickTime video recording facility of the telescope. And now you can see that the object is heading in a completely different direction. Now, if this was a natural object, say for example an asteroid, which had been caught in the gravitational pull of the moon, then it wouldn't change direction. And now we see it traversing a crater. Some craters are so large on the moon they have craters inside them. Those Bailey craters are about 30 kilometers across, so we can see that this is a very, very large object. And you can see that it's going now off the northern quadrant of the moon, and there it leaves, or it goes round the horizon, and there is a track of this object's movements. Its trajectory is totally unlike any natural phenomenon. And one has to wonder if in 1991, during Space Shuttle flight STS-48, that these objects filmed by NASA astronauts in the upper atmosphere and just outside the atmosphere are also coming from the moon. And 6 years later, during mission STS-80, which had filmed the circular formation of UFOs, there is also ultraviolet footage showing a very large object emerging, coming out of the Earth's atmosphere. And there are also many other objects as well. On the left of the screen there are 3 stationary objects. There are presumably meteorites streaking past, and there from the Earth's atmosphere you see a very, very large object, which is possibly 20 kilometers in diameter. And I suspect that this footage was filmed by the Orpheus Space Dara remote satellite pointing back down onto the Earth's atmosphere. And these objects which you see coming away from the Earth really shouldn't be there. Every object should be captured by the Earth's gravity, and that large object that emerges from the atmosphere is a complete and utter mystery. Now the moon has been thoroughly mapped, and there's ongoing moon mapping missions with satellites going around the lunar surface taking high definition photographs. Nearly every couple of years there's a mission like that. And what I've done here is I've got a moon atlas which has been stitched. All these individual JPEG images from various lunar surveying missions have been stitched together, and the near face of the moon never changes as far as our point of view is on planet Earth. The moon does not rotate, and so there's always this hidden dark side of the moon. And in this animation we can go from pole to pole, and as each year goes by the quality of the images which we get from the lunar surface are increasing and increasing and increasing. It's interesting that I've never seen any lunar survey images which have been sharp enough detail to show any of the landing sites of the Apollo missions. What French astronomers have done is they've mapped these high-res images from the NASA archive onto a 3-dimensional spherical model of the moon. This is the near side of the moon with all of its so-called seas. These are where liquid lava 100 million years ago leaked into large crater areas or depressed areas, and many of these seas are fairly level and featureless. But as we go onto the dark side of the moon, this is the coming around now, this is the side of the moon which we never really see. You can see that there's quite a difference in the topography and the geography of the dark side of the moon. There's not so many of these flat areas which are shown up in this animation as being dark. And let's face it, it's a very large object, and if aliens were to come to Earth, it would be a very, very useful stopping off place, because, as I said earlier, the near side of the moon is always the same side of the moon which we see from Earth. This animation of the moon does not rotate, so we never see the dark side of the moon, and therefore it could potentially be a very useful place for extraterrestrials to have a landing stage and stop off before they enter the Earth's atmosphere. And I believe that the Space Shuttle and the Dara Orpheus satellites and other equipment are being used to track UFOs which are visiting the atmosphere and planet Earth as they come from the moon.
We have an unidentified flying object.
big vertical streaks in the sky.
Come on, we're going to record on this side.
I have no idea what the hell they are.
Santa, unusual encounter, or whatever it is.
Is that the main one over there?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think it's right here.
If I can get this damn thing open. There we go.
See it?
Look at that shit.
Oh, real big. Yeah. How big can you see it now? It's real bright.
Man, that's weird.
Let me see your lighter.
No, I don't have one. As a matter of fact, I knew it.
Dude, look at it.
Have you ever seen that?
You seen it through the OVG jet?
Come here and look at it.
That's some weird shit. Look at it. Did you see it, Cheetah?
Yeah, there's multiple.
They're all over the place.
He's 67 of them.
But that's the main one. That's the brightest one. There's some over here. I don't know if it's the way the stars are shining.
No, I don't think so.
You also have a red haze over there, so...
That's weird.
This animation simulates what it would be like to travel through the universe at 100,000 times the speed of light. Our nearest galaxy is the Andromeda Galaxy, which can be seen with the naked eye from planet Earth. Our own Milky Way galaxy is actually on a collision course with the Andromeda Galaxy, and in a few million years from now, we will crash into the Andromeda Galaxy, and the spiral arms of the Milky Way and the giant galactic center of the Andromeda Galaxy will swirl and coalesce into a giant super galaxy. The universe has many super galaxies and even clusters of galaxies. And each galaxy cluster contains billions of stars, exactly the same as our sun. And each of these suns may be orbited by hundreds of trillions of planets. Edwin Hubble was the first astronomer to detect that the universe is expanding from a central point. 13.7 billion years ago, a gigantic explosion called the Big Bang gave birth to our universe. And since that time, the universe has been expanding and growing, with new stars being formed all the time. In fact, this is what we see in the Orion Nebula. In the belt of Orion, there is a star nursery. Huge columns of gases are coalescing and creating new stars all the time. If just one of the trillions of planets in our universe developed intelligent alien life forms, say 1,000 years before mankind developed spaceflight, then aliens would most probably be exploring the universe by sending probes into the cosmos, just as we are doing today. Stars, such as our Sun, have a lifespan of around 10 billion years. When all the gases have been used up, our Sun will go dark. It will become a black sun and begin to shrink. Only the gravitational force would be left, concentrated into a spherical ball just a few meters in diameter. All the planets in our solar system would be sucked into the center of the dying Sun. The immense gravitational force of the formerly huge Sun would become so condensed that it would begin to suck surrounding stars into itself. Even rays of light, which are made from photons, would be sucked and bent into the center of the dead Sun. And this is what's known as a black hole. In his book, A Brief History of Time, Professor Stephen Hawking postulates that at the center of every galaxy there is a black hole, or even a cluster of black holes, whose immense gravitational forces attract nearby stars and even attract nearby smaller galaxies. This theory explains the common swirled shape of many galaxies, which resemble pools of water going down a giant galactic plug hole. But black holes are far more than just a plug hole. Some black holes suck and swirl cosmic gases and stars so quickly from the surrounding space that enormous jets of material are flung out into the cosmos from the center of the galactic core. The spiral shape of most galaxies seems to suggest that black holes do indeed exist at the center of every galaxy and at the center of every galaxy cluster, sucking and attracting gases, coalescing cosmic dust into stars and planets, and over billions and trillions of years swallowing everything around them. Right now, at NASA and universities all around the planet, physicists are beginning to theorize what would happen if one were to travel through a black hole. The idea of traveling into a black hole and then emerging on the other side into a new part of the universe is known as the wormhole theory. At the Hadron Collider at CERN in Switzerland, scientists are testing the wormhole theory by creating atom-sized black holes. And just recently, the Hadron Collider had to be shut down, as physicists became worried that these man-made black holes may in actual fact begin to warp the Earth's gravity and create a catastrophe with our planet being sucked into one of these artificial, microscopic black holes. Albert Einstein postulated that nothing could travel faster than light. But just recently, Cambridge theoretical physicists led by Professor Stephen Hawking have devised theories which suggest that there are 11 dimensions, and each dimension contains a separate universe, and that these universes are co-joined together on giant membranes. If one were able to bend, twist, or distort the universal membranes, then it would be possible to travel to far distant galaxies, to travel, in fact, to the farthest reaches of our own universe, and possibly travel to other universes and other dimensions, simply by warping space-time. In Norway and China and Russia during the Christmas holiday season in 2009, eyewitnesses photographed and filmed swirls and spirals in the sky. The mainstream media and the internet filled with images of perfectly shaped funnels and spirals. In some instances, spherical UFOs appeared from the center of these spirals. Is this some secret space technology using wormhole theory to travel across the universe? Or is this evidence that aliens are sending probes here via wormholes in order to collect data on planet Earth?
A giant spiral of light that suddenly appeared over northern Norway. The winding image could be seen for hundreds of miles, fueling speculation that it was anything from alien invaders to a new phenomenon. Alex Marquardt reports from Moscow.
Norwegians were treated to a spectacular light show early Wednesday morning that immediately set tongues wagging, everyone asking what created that giant blue pinwheel in the sky. Speculation has settled firmly on a failed Russian rocket test. Russia's defense ministry has refused to comment, but military sources are telling leading Russian newspapers that there was a test of a Russian Bulava intercontinental ballistic missile that failed yesterday. It had previously been announced that there would be tests of the Bulava in the region between December 7th and 14th, and specifically from 2 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Wednesday morning, according to one Russian newspaper. But for now, that's simply the leading theory behind the mysterious blue lights. Alex Marquardt, ABC News, Moscow.
它究竟是地球的产物，还是天外来客？没有人知道。事实上，从20世纪70年代开始，这种螺旋状飞行物在我们国家已经不止出现过一次。却正好捕捉到了一个螺旋状的不明飞行物。根据这幅效果模拟图，我们发现1987年和这次就无线光亮异常，而最为蹊跷的是，发光体旋转的过程中有一次明显的变向，从顺时针忽然转到了逆时针方向。这个让人匪夷所思的变向，是在照片中无法看到的，也是我们在电脑模拟的动画上都没有想象到的。邓高。
Tonight, Norwegian authorities are investigating strange lights seen in the Arctic sky. The spiralling white light was seen for several minutes Wednesday morning. Locals say the light appeared to be bigger than the moon. Thousands of Norwegians bombarded the Meteorological Institute to ask what that light could have possibly been. Some feared it could have been a meteor, others a black hole, and there are even those that thought it could be aliens. But defence experts in Oslo suggest it is more likely to have been a failed Russian missile launched from the area of the White Sea. They think a rocket probably went out of control and self-destructed. There's been no official comment, though, from the Russian military.
As the Secretary General of the United Nations, an organization of 147 member states who represent almost all of the human inhabitants of the planet Earth, I send greetings on behalf of the people of our planet. We step out of our solar system into the universe seeking only peace and friendship, to teach if we are called upon, to be taught if we are fortunate. We know full well that our planet and all its inhabitants are but a small part of this immense universe that surrounds us, and it is with humility and hope that we take this step.
In the 1970s, NASA, with the assistance of Professor Frank Drake and Carl Sagan, designed 4 man-made interstellar probes. 2 were called Pioneers and 2 were called Voyagers. 2 of these probes are still sending data and images back to NASA to this day. They are way beyond Pluto and in deep, deep space. However, you can hardly find any information about the data being sent back to us from the official NASA website and public relations offices. These probes were partly powered by plutonium and a gravitational slingshot after photographing Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus. Aboard these probes, there are gold-plated plaques of copper and video discs with recordings of people's voices, music, singing, and more than 100 images of tribal people, landscapes, and the Earth's oceans. The video discs are sealed in solid gold cases and have a stylus to play themselves. Any intelligent extraterrestrial would be able to see what humans sound like, hear many dozens of different types of languages, look at our naked bodies, and be able to find planet Earth easily by using a map designed by Carl Sagan showing the Earth's position in relation to 14 pulsar stars. These plaques and video discs are the perfect interstellar calling card, inviting any alien race to come to planet Earth. During the 1970s, the highest levels of NASA management were still being run by Nazis such as Werner von Braun, who had previously been an SS officer developing the secret space program for the Royal Bavarian Third Reich. Not surprisingly, the golden discs of the 2 Voyager craft contain a welcome message from the Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Kurt Waldheim. Before he represented all nations on planet Earth as Secretary General of the United Nations, Kurt Waldheim was the President of Austria. He was also a former Nazi SS officer, found out to be complicit with war crimes, and it was Kurt Waldheim who presided over a meeting about UFOs with Dr. Alan Hynek and Jacques Vallée at the United Nations in New York in 1978. Within months of this meeting, the Star Wars weapons program was launched, which, according to former Pentagon officials, allows U.S. Space Command to shoot down invading UFOs using intercontinental ballistic missiles launched from submarines. It is very, very obvious that NASA invested huge amounts of money into the Pioneer and Voyager projects, carefully designing golden plaques and golden records which would entice aliens to our planet. However, where is the contingency plan in case of alien invasion? Where are the NASA guidelines on how to initiate communication with these aliens if they do indeed find these disks and arrive on planet Earth? Officially, all NASA astronauts I have spoken to say that they have never been given any training whatsoever. They've never been told how to deal with an encounter with an alien. It is very, very clear from the writings of the people who attended the meeting about UFOs at the United Nations that some kind of protocol, a secret protocol to communicate with aliens, had indeed been planned secretly by officials. It was the French ufologist Jacques Vallée who first postulated a series of hand signals, sounds and colors which would be used to communicate with aliens. It was Jacques Vallée who inspired the character in the film Close Encounters of the Third Kind, played by Frenchman Francois Truffaut. In the film, it is a Frenchman who is organizing the first meeting with aliens, and who is in charge of NASA operations at a secret facility out in the desert, far, far away from where members of the public can see the first historic meeting of humans and aliens. Pioneer 10 was the first of these man-made probes carrying a gold-plated map to be sent into interstellar space. Pioneer 10 was launched by NASA on March 2nd, 1972 to study Jupiter and eventually study interstellar deep space. While the spacecraft is believed to still operate properly to this day, communication has been lost since January the 23rd, 2003. Before this, Pioneer 10 was in extended mission to study the dynamics of the solar system boundary, including interplanetary magnetic fields, the solar wind, cosmic rays, and the so-called heliosphere. It seems that as soon as Pioneer 10 reached the boundary of the heliosphere, this is the place where the cosmic particles ejected from our sun end, which is a teardrop-shaped bubble that stretches for millions of miles into space beyond Pluto. As soon as Pioneer reached the outer boundary of the heliosphere, all communications with it abruptly ceased. This was not the first time that one of these probes carrying a map of how to find planet Earth mysteriously ceased operating. Pioneer 11, also known as Pioneer G, as in the letter G found in the international symbol for Freemasonry, a very apt name considering that many NASA astronauts and technicians are Freemasons, was launched by NASA on April the 6th, 1973 to study Jupiter, Saturn, and is now out in interstellar deep space. While Pioneer 11 is believed to still operate properly, NASA say that communication with Pioneer 11 has been lost since November the 30th, 1995. This means that no communication has been received from Pioneer 11 for 15 years, and no communication received from Pioneer 10 for the last 7 years. Just at the point when these probes were leaving the heliosphere bubble which surrounds our Sun and solar system. Almost as if some external, possibly alien force has terminated mankind's ability to penetrate deep space beyond the natural boundary of our solar system. Pioneer 10 was fitted with a star sensor that could recognize the star Canopus and therefore could always orientate the aerial back to Earth. Perhaps NASA are lying, and the Pioneer data is being reserved for the scientific corporate elite at NASA. Or perhaps the Pioneer probes were hit by a meteorite. Another possibility is that sometime around 1995 and 2003, an alien intelligence discovered the Pioneer probes and found the gold-plated maps and used these maps to find our beautiful little blue planet.
Hello from the children of planet Earth.
Paz e felicidade a todos.
ऑडिजियन सब लोगों ने मारो राम राम पहुंचे हमें अठे राजी खुशी हाँ तुम उठे राजी खुशी रह जाओ.
The other two deep space probes carrying gold-plated video discs are called Voyager 1 and Voyager 2. They are still, apparently, sailing into deep space. Voyager 1 is headed for a distant star called AC 793888, and Voyager 2 will eventually reach the Sirius star system. Now, Sirius is most commonly associated with the godhead of Luciferians, and is the star system which ancient legends of the Dogon tribe in Mali, in Africa, tell us live very, very intelligent amphibians called the Nomos. Ancient legends in Babylon and Africa tell us that alien amphibians from Sirius visited planet Earth long, long ago. These aliens were greeted as star gods from the heavens. They were very intellectually advanced, and even then had knowledge about genetic engineering. Right now, Voyager 1 is 10 billion miles away. So great a distance that its radio signals, which travel at almost the speed of light, take more than 14 hours to reach planet Earth. From Voyager's viewpoint, the Sun is now just another star south of Rigel in the constellation of Orion, and the Sun's planets have faded into invisibility. It will take 40,000 years travelling at 38,000 miles per hour before Voyager 1 drifts within 1.7 light years of the unnamed star AC 793888. It will take 358,000 years for Voyager 2 to approach Sirius. The golden discs aboard Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 contain many photographs and diagrams. The first images are of scientific interest, showing mathematical and physical quantities, our solar system and its planets. There are diagrams of the DNA molecule and human anatomy, and showing aliens, how humans reproduce and give birth to babies. The drawings and diagrams contain two circles in the lower right-hand corner, which represent the hydrogen atom in its two lowest states, with a connecting line and the digit number 1 to indicate that the time interval associated with the transition from one state to the other is to be used as the fundamental time scale to decode the pictures on these video discs. The golden records aboard the Voyager spacecraft are constructed of gold-plated copper and encased in aluminium. It will be very, very obvious to these aliens that our planet, planet Earth, is rich in natural resources. Certainly, it's clear you don't need to be a former Nazi rocket scientist to work out that some of the diagrams, some of the images on those Voyager golden discs have ended up being used as motifs and part of crop circle designs. Since the time that the Pioneer and Voyager probes were sent into space, and especially since the time that all communication was mysteriously lost with two of these probes, there has been a dramatic increase in the number of UFOs seen in the Earth's atmosphere, with UFOs flying out of tunnel-like wormholes. Vast numbers of UFOs being released from flexible, serpent-like membranes above the world's most famous capital cities. And yes, even military personnel claiming that they have seen alien bodies recovered from crashed flying saucers. More alarmingly than all of this, ordinary people all over planet Earth claim that they have been abducted and that genetic tissue was harvested from their bodies by aliens. Some of these people even claim that they have been taken to breeding facilities where government agencies work alongside aliens, breeding a new race of part human and part alien beings.